Hey everybody, this is Perch. I have a mail here, and this is a good one. It says complaining doesn't work. So it says, "Hey Perch, I've been listening to the audiobook How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a classic. He's a great author. He talked about how people react to criticism, and that if we criticize people, they become stubborn and don't believe they were wrong. I was contemplating how we as customers communicate to writers, editors, and artists of the big two without criticizing, condemning, or complaining. If we were to write to them, how do we express our desire that they change without them digging in their heels?" So thank you very much for the mail. That is a great book. It's one of those weird books that it doesn't matter how much time has passed. The advice is solid. It's good. It tells you a lot about human behavior. If you read that as more of a instruction manual around psychology and less as a like a how-to book, it helps, because I think it really at its core is a book about psychology. But so the challenge we're in, just to put this out there at the beginning, is that the frustration has built up, quite frankly, on all ends, where customers don't feel like they're being listened to, so they're getting more and more extreme with their comments and more angry, which is normal. If you feel like you've been gleefully, happily, dutifully collecting things and buying the product for a long time, but you've been voicing some concerns, and those concerns get ignored or sometimes even beat down. I can trace back to kind of 2014 and when Facebook was rolling at that point, and I was noticing an interaction starting to take place way before all this stuff really got hit. In that it was like, if you put it this way, on Twitter, Wendy's has an account where it's sarcastic to people. That's kind of its deal. People are like, "Hey, your fries are salty," and they're like, "Oh, your mom is salty," would be what Wendy's would say. And people got very, people liked that. It was funny. And I noticed a lot of comment creators would go, like, they'd bring out the sledgehammer to a very benign remark. Like, "I really don't think Rogue did very much in this comic." It's like, "Well, I think you're a bitch." Like, it went from 0 to 60 from the creators, and they were being funny. They thought they were doing a bit. Because again, you have Wendy's being sarcastic. You have Twitter starting to grow at that point, and kind of this pithy, sarcastic kind of stuff. And a lot of creators have that kind of dry humor, sarcasm thing on lock. So you just saw more of that starting to happen. I remember seeing that going, this is not going to end well, because you've got, on the internet, I mean, what they will tell you is that you don't have the context of the situation. It's why if you're at work and you put something in all caps, sometimes I've sent out emails and I put something in all caps to emphasize the word, and they'll get the, "Why are you yelling at me?" It's like, no, I'm not yelling at you. I just emphasizing this word. This is the important word. Make sure to log this action. It's that's the step that is the one that's easy to forget. So I'm bolding it. But right now there's even a move in a lot of companies to say, don't use the thumbs up emoji because millennials view it as aggressive. I'm not joking, by the way. You can look this up on Google. It's the thumbs up emoji is seen as aggressive. And there are people who thought this. I was telling this, kind of incredulously to somebody. I'm like, "Can you believe that somebody views the thumbs up emoji as aggressive?" And the person, I'm like, "Well, yeah, it does come across pretty harsh." I'm like, "Oh my God, what's happened here?" But anyway, when people took on that kind of Wendy's sarcasm, it works for Wendy's because it's a fast food place. You're getting a burger and you're going. Nobody expects it to be a 5-star restaurant, and so a little sarcasm there works. But for something where you're talking to a creator of a comic, that bit, give somebody the finger bit is just going to lead to trouble. And sure enough, it did. People got very, they took offense. They didn't get the context. They didn't get the fact the creator was doing a bit or whatever. They took it personally. And it's not unreasonable for them to take it personally. I'm not blaming the customers here, but you could just see it happening. So as years have gone by, everybody is just pissed at each other at this point. So even if you go in, I've seen people go in with extremely benign criticism. I saw somebody mention to Tom King, just like, "Hey, I think they shipped your issues of Rorschach too close together." One of the comics, and they did. One of the comics came out like two weeks after the previous one for bizarre reasons, and King blocks them and then vents on them. You saw people kind of you saw Donny Cates show up with a weird hat, and people are like, "That's a weird hat," and Donny Cates like, "Fuck you for mentioning my hat." I mean, you just like everybody's on a razor's edge. And the creators have, kind of a taste of their own medicine, lost any ability to hear this stuff. And by the way, I say creators, plenty of creators are just fine with this. They can take criticism. In fact, some of them seek it out. They want it. But you see people who've gotten really, really wired into Twitter. They no longer have that ability. It's gone. So, when you ask this question, how do you complain, or how do you mention something? I mean, first off, I think it's better. It's always good to aim to the right source. So if your concern is the comics Marvel's publishing, or why they canceled a series or anything else, writing the writer or the artist to that issue is somewhat irrelevant. That's not the person who made that decision. You need to get to the editor. So make sure you're talking to the right person first and foremost. That helps, because somebody who is helpless in the situation isn't going to be able to take it well, and they're not going to hear the criticism because they're helpless to do anything about it. So make sure you get to the right person. And the second thing is, it is funny. We're seeing a slight resurgence of people writing letters and putting stamps on them and sending it in, which seems absurd. But there's something in the moment of a mail traveling slowly, coming in, somebody having to open it, read the paper. It hits differently than a tweet or a post on Facebook. It feels, for whatever reason, more thoughtful. People tend to get more less pissed about it. But the best way, I would say, to criticize, again, if your goal is you're pissed off and you're venting, then I have different advice to you. Just figure out a place to vent where you're able to get whatever you have to say out and just do what you got to do. But if your goal is to actually communicate and help, so a creator or a company, then I found that and it's kind of a bit of Carnegie's book. Go in with hey, when it's done this way, it's much better. I prefer it. This tends to work better in my shop. My retailer is happier. The people buying the comic seem to get the idea better. If you could strike that tone of here's the way to do it versus you're fucking it all up, then I think you do get to a better place. And so that would be my core advice to you, is just, if you have a great idea, if you see something that's not working, then imagine for yourself, here's how it could work, or here's how it should work, and then roll with that. It's going to be at least a little bit easier to digest. Again, if you send that off to a writer who feels that he or she has zero power to influence anything, they're going to ignore it. There's nothing they can do about it, and so it's going to land poorly. But if you frame it up that way, you have the best chance. Unfortunately, again, everybody's on edge, everybody's pissed off, and we're just not in the mood to hear this kind of stuff. And so in that environment, it's very, very hard. But keep trying. Thank you very much, and thank you for writing in. And I think the last piece I'd say, it's fine to criticize. In most cases, people who are complaining about something do have a desire for it to be better. They're not just taking it out on somebody personally. They want improvement. And so if you're the one receiving some of this criticism, try and look at it from that lens, just that the person's trying to do good by you. May not feel like it, but they are. Thanks for listening.